All right, let's jump right in. Today we're going to break down a case study that honestly feels like it's straight out of a movie, a years-long cyber campaign targeting one of the world's biggest public transport systems, Transport for London. And the person behind it all? Probably not who you're picturing.
So, could a teenager actually shut down your city? I mean, it's a wild question, right? But it's exactly what this story is all about. We always think of cyber threats as these big, scary, state-sponsored groups. But what happens when the person causing all the chaos is, well, someone a lot less sophisticated?
Okay, so here's how we're going to unpack this whole thing. We'll start with what actually happened, the attacks. Then we'll get into who was behind it. We'll look at how they did it, how London responded, and what this all means for, well, everyone.
All right, let's get into it. The first thing you need to know is that this wasn't some one-and-done deal. Nope, this was a whole pattern of attacks, stretched out over years, hitting a public service that millions of people depend on every single day. So if you look at this timeline, you can see how things just got more and more intense. It starts in 2015 with, just messing with the website. But then, fast forward to 2018, and suddenly they're pulling out leaking internal data. And by 2020, they're actually messing with the passenger information displays in the real world. But here's the really wild part. Even though the damage got bigger, the attacks themselves, they didn't really get any more complicated. So, of course, this begs the question, who in the world was doing this? Was it some professional hacking group, a rival country? The real answer, well, it's something else entirely.
It turns out the attackers were what we call script kiddies. And yeah, that's not a compliment in the tech world. A script kiddie is basically someone who uses ready-made hacking tools and scripts that other people wrote. They're not master coders, they're just using what's already out there to poke around for weak spots.
And this is where it gets really interesting. We're talking about teenagers here. They were using free tools you can find anywhere online. And get this, they weren't doing it for money. Not at all. It was all about curiosity, getting props from their friends online, and just the thrill of it. The goal wasn't to get rich, it was to cause a stir and get noticed.
Okay, so we know who's behind this, but how? How did a bunch of teens with basic, downloaded tools manage to get into a huge organization like Transport for London? Well, the answer is kind of shockingly simple. It really just came down to a 3-step playbook. Yeah, their method was super straightforward, but man, was it effective. First, they'd just run these automated tools that sniff out obvious weaknesses. Then, they'd hit those weak spots. We're talking about security holes that were already public knowledge, stuff that often had a fix already available, and then, the final step, they'd run to online forums to brag about what they did. That's how they got their validation. And this right here? This table tells the whole story. The problem wasn't some genius-level hack. It was like the digital front door was just left unlocked. They got in through things like outdated software, super weak passwords, think password 123 level stuff, and just a basic lack of monitoring. These aren't clever, secret exploits. This is just failing cybersecurity 101. So you've got these opportunistic attacks happening. What do? How does a giant organization like TfL even begin to build the defense against this kind of thing? Well, their plan was actually really smart and based on priorities. First things first, lock down everything the public can touch, all those public-facing systems. Second, get better eyes on the network so you can spot trouble faster. Third, make it harder to get in with stronger passwords and better authentication. And finally, number 4, stop waiting for attacks to happen and start actively looking for your own weak spots first. Okay, defensive measure number 1, patch regularly. This is huge. You got to remember, these hackers were getting in through known security holes that already had fixes available. So just keeping your systems updated, that is your absolute non-negotiable first line of defense. It's that simple. All right, number 2, enforce MFA. You've probably heard of multi-factor authentication. It's that thing where, after you type your password, you have to enter a code from your phone. It's a game changer. Because even if a hacker steals your password, they can't get in without that second step. It's such a simple thing, but it stops so many attacks in their tracks.
And the third big one, monitor everything. Actively. You got to have visibility. It's like having security cameras for your network. These systems can spot weird stuff happening, like someone changing a file they shouldn't be or trying to log in from a strange place, and they'll alert you right away. Because let's be real, you can't fight an enemy you can't even see.
Okay, let's pull back for a second. Yeah, this story is about Transport for London, but the lessons here, they're universal. They apply to pretty much any company, any organization, heck, even to you and me. And this quote right here just nails it. The takeaway is this: you do not need to be a super sophisticated government-backed hacker to cause some serious damage. All it takes is someone exploiting the most basic security mistakes. Simple attacks work when people forget the simple defenses.
So this whole thing leaves us with a really tricky question to chew on, right? We're talking about kids, teenagers who are basically driven by curiosity, not by a desire to get rich or hurt people. But what they did had real consequences. So it makes you wonder, where's the line between just being a curious teenager and becoming a real threat? And maybe more importantly, how do we help steer that kind of curiosity in a positive direction instead of a destructive one?